next panel, we're going to be discussing what it takes to build a successful omnichannel lifestyle brand. Please welcome Jackie Aina, founder of FORVR MOOD, and Denis Asamoah, chairman and CEO of FORVR MOOD. Yay! Jackie and Denis, yeah, you guys look amazing.
Thank you. Oh, yes, hair, front and center, yes. Volume.
Hello.
I'm so glad that you're both here.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Okay, so I'm so happy to be chatting. Tell us all about FORVR MOOD. What's the log line? What is the value proposition? Tell us about the brand.
So we can get a little bit more into how it started versus where we are now. But basically, I started in my head thinking this is gonna be like a passion project. And then it kind of blew up because at the time, Denis and I had been talking about starting a brand focused on candles and fragrance as far back as like 2017. But I would say it like in passing, like, oh, this is just something I want to do for fun. Because people knew me as the makeup girl. So it wasn't really meant to be like a big thing for me. Again, I thought it was like, if nobody's gonna buy these candles, I'm gonna buy these candles. Like, it's just gonna be for me. It's just something I want to do. And it really, at the time, we really wanted to center women in this brand. Like I wanted it to be women forward, women voices being prioritized from the point of view of Black women specifically, because Black women love fragrance, but we're hardly ever like behind the scenes centered in the storytelling and in that narrative, even still in the fragrance world, even now it's crazy. But yeah, that's really like what I wanted like the focus to be and what our very clear vision was from the beginning until now.
Nothing to add.
As we all know, and we touched on this a little bit in the last panel, but a lot of influencer-led brands, a lot of celebrity brands, they launch and then they quickly shutter. And that can be amazing people with amazing brands. And Jackie, I'm sure that you weighed so many offers and so many opportunities. How did you determine like, this is the time, this is the team, this is the product? Like what were those early days like?
Well, I firstly want to acknowledge that even when a brand has the best idea, the best investment, the best everything lined up, it can still fail. And that's okay. Sometimes it's just not great timing. Sometimes it's just, there's so many different factors you have to weigh when you start a brand. So there's people that I admire that have had to like walk away from the things that they've started. And I'm like, well, hopefully I see it pick back up again, because sometimes there's just factors you cannot control. And so with that said, especially when you're a creator, I think you just get to a point where like everything sounds like an amazing idea and everyone's like, you can do this, and everyone's like, you should do this. And you have to have the discernment. I think being a good leader is really important, but also the discernment and being able to, and it takes a little bit of lowering your pride to be like, I can do that, but I'm not going to. Like, just because I can, it doesn't mean I should. And not saying yes to everything is really important, because it's so easy to get caught up in like things that seem like an easy money grab. But I think you have to love a little bit more than, I love money, but I love what I do a little bit more than like, how much am I gonna get out of this? So I think that focusing on that is more important than the temporary excitement you get from like, oh, like this is gonna be big, this is gonna be huge. It's not enough.
How did you weigh the timing? Like, I feel like that must have been so hard to figure out, like, okay, like even once you like landed on what you were gonna do, like, do we do it now? Do we wait a little bit? Especially, I mean, anyway, you answer that.
Yeah, in regards to the timing, it was ironic because it was during the pandemic in 2020. And at the time, there was a lot of the unknown what's going to happen. And we actually thought this is the best time. Everyone's at
Oh,
home.
you thought I was scared.
Yeah. That's,
He was like, no, babes, we got to do it. And I was like, are you
yeah, I was like, yeah, everyone's at home. And you know what? He doesn't want their house to smell good and stuff with their candles. And ironically, I actually think it was the best time for us. And actually, candles started booming. So we didn't plan it, but in terms of timing, I would say it was the best time. And it worked out really well in August of 2020 when we launched. And yeah, we didn't know it was going to literally take off the way it did. So just to give you context, we had initially ordered about 20,000 units of candles, and we sold out in a few hours. So
That was supposed to be 6 months of inventory.
Wow.
That was supposed to this will hold us over, till like next year, like right before Christmas, girl. I was
Problems,
like, oh,
good problems.
shit.
Good problems still.
I mean, it's a good problem, but it's like, damn, replenishment. Like it was
replenishment, and that's actually to some of the questions and some of the talking points we're going to talk about today. Like sometimes you don't plan for things, and when we look back now, we can obviously give some advice on how you should approach that when it comes to how much products do you launch when you start, and then also how do you prepare yourself if you do sell out, your replenishment time, how long does it take to make your products again, and how do you keep customers excited and hyped during the time when you're sold out. So those are things we can share more insights into.
Well, you guys just shared one anecdote around a challenge, but can you share any more around challenges that maybe you didn't anticipate when you started, that you were like, oh no, when they happened?
Oh yeah, there's plenty. I can write a book about things that happened. But I think one of them, when it comes to CPG brands, so consumer packaged goods products, I think one thing that I would say when you're a creative founder like Jackie, like I'm more behind the scenes, Jackie's like visually, she wants this, she wants it to look this way, you want it to smell this way. But from a business standpoint, I think one of the most important things to think about is the size of the component, the weight, because even from a shipping standpoint, shipping's becoming more expensive. So, and you're going to compete with the likes of the Amazon who offer free shipping. So if your product is too big or it's glass and it damages, all these things, yes, it might sound good, you want this beautiful product, but I think you need to factor how that looks and how that would work. And also even like the ingredients, how long does it expire? So are you buying enough that's gonna last versus buying too much and you sit there and then it expires and then you have to dispose of it? So those are things that we didn't think of. So we bought a lot of fragrances, fragrance oils specifically for the candles. And there was times where, okay, well, we can't use it anymore from a safety standpoint. And also from a shipping standpoint, making sure you have the right package. You could literally be maybe 2 ounces too high in terms of the weight, and then you're paying an extra $5 for shipping. So all these things, if you can factor in and look into these things, it will make a big difference.
Wow. So if I know correctly, I believe you guys bootstrapped FORVR Mood. How do you feel about taking on money, taking on that big topic that everyone's talking about?
Well, I think very highly of taking on investment, but I also think it depends ultimately on what your goals are and like what you're capable of at that time. So Dennis was really big on like us just doing it ourselves in the beginning, whereas I was more like, no, I think we should look for an investment now. I think we need like a safety cushion. But I'm kind of glad we didn't, because it also gave us more leverage in the beginning to be like, we did this on our own and we didn't get $0 from anybody. So what can you offer us to allow, what are you gonna be able to do for us? I'll let Dennis speak a little bit more to this topic, but unfortunately, as a Black founder, like we oftentimes find ourselves asking, and I'm pretty sure most Black founders have asked the same question, but like, where's all the money for Black-owned brands? It's like dried up, especially when you look statistically, like where the majority of funding goes. So it is definitely a struggle. And I've encountered that like what we do with proof and receipts and sales and data and even press still won't get us the investment that a non-Black founder will get with just an idea or potential. And it's extremely frustrating because it's like, well, we're already doing it though, and you funded that idea. So that's very interesting. And it can be really frustrating, but it allows us to be more creative because it's our own money and it's our own, we're reinvesting in ourselves. So with that said, we're gonna move a lot smarter. And I think that's also where more of the leverage comes in, because it's like, well, you know, we've already learned how to like be strappy and how to use our funds responsibly, because we didn't always have outside fund. We still haven't taken a single dollar of outside funding at all.
Wow.
Yep, this is year 4. Period. Year 4, not a single investment. But yeah, do you want to add to that?
No, I think you make a lot of valid points. And look, traditionally, of course, it's great if someone can hand you a lot of money. And however, I think we need to take a step back and ask, why do you need an investment before you seek investment? Like, what are you going to use it for and what the purpose is? Because I think a lot of people, it sounds great, yeah, let's get investment, but they don't really have a plan for it. And actually, sometimes having money may not do you any justice and any good. And I've seen a lot of founders in that situation where they've ended up just blowing money so quickly, and then you've got someone you have to answer to. So I think, personally, when I look back at our journey and I speak to other founders, I think if you can start small when you begin with, start with less SKUs, don't try and build an empire straight away, just start with a few SKUs, see how it goes and build gradually. I think that would just be the best approach.
Those are really great points. I hear so many stories about people who took on investment really early and then they regret it.
Probably because they don't, and that probably honestly would have been us in that scenario, because I was the one that was like, no, I think we need it. But now that I've lived it, we've built the brand to where it is now. Now I'm like, actually, you ate with that. Yeah. Like, you kind of ate,
But now we need investment, because
now we need investment.
Yeah, we're at that stage where there is demand, like, and we're currently at Sephora, and this is where I said, like,
Sephora.
Where like, okay, they see the clear growth, the clear demand, and they're like, okay, we want to get you into more stores, we want to do more volumes, and okay, that's going to require cash, and we may not have the cash to be able to achieve that. So that's when I think, okay, you want to scale and grow, then you should explore it.
So, getting into a little bit of the back end here. Years ago, when a celebrity or an influencer would launch a brand, I feel like the marketing strategy was often scarcity marketing, so really hard to get or widely available, get it everywhere. But I feel like with the changes in supply chains after the pandemic, I don't know if that's really a choice anymore, but curious as to what your distribution strategy is and how it's impacted by your supply chains.
That's a good question. Now it's currently D2C and Sephora only. We probably may have slightly different answers to this question, but I think it ultimately boils down to like knowing where your customer is and prioritizing that instead of trying to be everywhere. Well, first of all, we can't be everywhere. We can't be everywhere because that costs money, and we ain't there. Like we can't even keep up with the current demand. Like it's just been insane. But with that said, we are trying to focus more on like strategically placing the product, being smart, also thinking about like where's the FORVR MOOD girl shopping at? Where am I shopping at? Like what's ideal for who's already currently buying the product? But we kind of agreed very early on that we didn't desire being everywhere. But we're also not really leaning into that whole scarcity thing either, because I feel like customers are smarter than that, and they know, girl, you did not restock this in a week, okay? It don't take a week to replenish. You know what I mean? Like it's like they'll limit and be like, oh, sold out in 2 days, and then like, okay, mysteriously it's back in stock 3 days later.
How many did you sell out?
Right. Okay. But we don't. Yeah. We just a little bit smarter than or transparent than that.
Yeah, we don't launch products to be like, oh yeah, everyone, we sold out, because to your point, what does that mean? It's all relative. Okay, is it 100 units? Is it 100,000 units? So the way we approach supply is, okay, well, you got to look at a number of key factors. Okay, what is our budget firstly? How much money can we invest in this? How many SKUs? Because, okay, if there's 5 SKUs and we need 10,000 SKUs for each of these, is that going to play a key role? How much savings are we trying to get from our vendor? Okay, how many do we need to order to get the best savings? Another thing is season. When are we trying to launch this? Timing is another key factor. So for us, there's a number of factors, and I can give you guys my master sheet when it comes to asking myself key questions, when it comes to making decisions, when it comes to order and quantities and when we're going to order it.
Have you faced a lot of supply chain issues post-pandemic? Or
It's less so, but is always. There's always things. So you're always going to have a contingency. And that's just the frustration. Look, we've been in situations with some of the crazy stuff that we've done. We've launched product, and I do not advise doing this, launching products when it's not actually there. And that's the thing, we've really, it's been, and this is a testament to our customers and the support, and we're very transparent when things do go under.
They'll tell us when to do stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like, they'll be like, "Can we just pre-order?" Yeah, I'm like, "All right."
Yeah,
all
so
right,
we communicate. That's one thing about our community. We talk to them and tell them, okay, this is a situation, like we can lose and it's the thing, you lose in a package, FedEx is shipping a pallet and it gets lost and you're like, what do you do? And we literally had that just a few months ago where our fragrance oil got lost and nowhere to be found. And we had to figure it out and stuff and we made it work. But to answer your question, yeah, we don't do things just to sell out. We do things properly and we want to cater to as many people as we can.
let's talk about replenishment a little bit. As we know, as the saying goes, you know, a lot of people can sell one lipstick, but selling the second, the third, the fourth, that's what builds a brand. So how do you approach replenishment? How do you keep people coming back and sort of getting that next product or that third product or fourth product?
I think there's the creative answer and probably like the logistic answer. Our customers have built a community around fragrance. So I feel like that's what builds the anticipation of like what's coming next. And I'm proud of that because when we started the brand, like I didn't want it to just be built around me. I feel like that provides temporary excitement in your products and in your launches, because if I'm not promoting it, then people don't care. Instead, we focus on the storytelling, the why, and it's really just completely focused on people who love fragrance. Black girls being centered in that storytelling. How does it make you feel? How is fragrance not just functional? Like, people see me wear perfume to bed and they're like, "You wear perfume to bed? Why?" And they're like so confused. And I'm like, "Why would I not want to smell good before bed?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, huh? Like, who says I can't?" And I feel like some of that is kind of what draws people to the brand. And like, even with our home fragrance, our candles, people like not even realizing like, oh, I can have like one scent specifically for the kitchen, but I should also be a little bit more mindful of like what I burn in my common area or my entryway. Because what people are smelling when they first walk into my house is gonna be very different. And they're like, okay, let me switch it up now. So we're not even just like educating customers on like what the products are, that's important too, but how to like use them and implement them. And then next thing you know, you ran out and you need to replace it already. So it's really fun because a lot of our customers were drawn in simply because the brand founder, being me, maybe they just follow me, and now they're like full-blown frag heads, and they're like, I only wear gourmands, or I'm such a fruity floral girl. Whereas before they were like, I don't even know where to start. So I think it's just making it fun and building, which is really what we wanted to do as brand founders as well, because we mentioned earlier how it's still largely gate-kept away from a lot of Black consumers, and even Black perfumers, there's not that many of them, and the ones that are here in the US, we all know each other. But we wanted to do the same thing with the consumer. Like, we didn't want people to be intimidated. We wanted to like break that wall so that people felt, oh, this is fun. Like, it's not so serious and stuffy. Like, it's actually fun. And our customers are having a ton of fun, and that's why they keep coming back.
Just want to make sure I answer the question correctly, but when you say replenishment, are you referring from how we think of it when we're replenishing our products, or from a customer's perspective?
From a customer's perspective, how do you get people coming back or like in that like purchase loop?
So we have subscription. That's a great model that we use. So we use a platform called Skio to provide subscriptions for those that want to keep reordering. We also have the minis. I think if you want someone to smell it before they buy their bigger version, I think having a mini size is always convenient. One thing that I think would work, which we haven't done, but I think is something that we're talking about doing, is I've seen marketing strategies where you say, well, if you use this perfume size, it's going to last you 4 weeks. Let's just say 4 weeks. I'm making it up. If you were to use it once or twice a day, so it kind of encourages the customer to know that, okay, this is something that I should get every month. So I think them type of strategies work really well, and it's something that we're going to implement more.
The subscription, that's very smart. How far into the brand did you guys launch the subscription service?
I would say maybe within a year, because we had our candle subscription. So the way it works, every quarter we launch 2 new candles, 2 new scents that our community haven't had before, and they also get a surprise gift. And we've been growing that since 2021, late 2021. It's been growing good. I still think there's a lot of improvements that we can do there, but the whole purpose there is to build a community, people that get excited, like they don't know what they're gonna get, but it's good products. They talk about it, they share it on their socials, and we've got over 1,000 members on that, and we're looking to grow that and expand that. So we've got some exciting things that we planned out for the rest of the year.
That's exciting. Jackie, I want to go back to something you said about, which is a great point that I feel like sometimes I even forget when I'm reporting on this stuff, which is how hard it must be to sell scented products, fragrance, candles on the internet.
Very hard.
Is there a secret sauce to sort of like how you describe, or the language, or like the visuals, or like how do you tell that story?
Actually, this is a big part of why the brand exists, because of my emotional connection to fragrance. Like people mainly, before we started the brand, knew me from makeup, but I really don't think people, at least maybe even I didn't even realize that at the time, I don't think I would have the personality I have now if it wasn't for fragrance. I don't think I would have the character, like the humor, because when I was younger, I had this condition called hyperhidrosis. So I used to sweat a lot, like sweat more than the average person. Like even if it was cold, I would be like drenched in sweat. Like it's so embarrassing. And it literally makes you want to be like a shell of a person and like hide and run away from people. Like even if it was like 90 degrees outside, I'd be wearing big puffy jackets. Like I was in a music video, like it was not cute at all. And so it was really perfume that pulled me out and being like, oh, like, I know it's not gonna completely solve the problem, but it makes me feel better. And so I started to realize the connection between how fragrance made me feel, not just what I was smelling. So when I'm talking about perfume in my content, I'm speaking to that. How do you feel? What does it remind me of? Does this remind me of somebody I cannot stand? Okay, I'm not wearing that again. You know what I mean? Like, it's always more than just what you're smelling on the surface, and that's what it's provided to me. And so that's kind of like what I want to communicate with the person who's watching, so that they're like, no clue what ylang ylang smells like, but I know you said Bora Bora, that's what now I can connect to that. I know exactly what Hawaii smells like. I know exactly what I want to smell like in the morning, at night, after the bath. I know what skin smells like. That is the kind of stuff that I like to connect to.
That's like true storytelling. To sell a fragrance online, it's very impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, truly. I want to talk a little bit about the changes happening in fragrance right now under MOCRA, which is the modernization of the cosmetics regulatory. You guys, I failed.
Complicated.
It's the new regulation in the US. So for the first time in 80 years, we're going to have regulatory compliance is becoming a really big part of the beauty conversation. And it's always been surprising to me how guarded the fragrance sort of recipes have been in the US. So I'm curious if you can sort of share any advice around navigating the formulation process and to sort of set yourself up for success in the future, as well as like these shifts that are happening in consumer values around like knowing everything that's in a product.
Yeah, we are very blessed that we have experts in this field. So we work with a consultancy, fragrance consultancy. We work with the very best fragrance houses. So we lean on them, to be honest, because they've got the data. They work with all the leading brands, and we're not experts in that space. So that's something we obviously take very seriously. And obviously we know customers more and more want to know what's in these products, from a safety, hazardous perspective. And even we've had situations where people don't realize, but fine fragrance has alcohol in it, and that actually has impact in regards to shipping to certain parts of the world and stuff. So all these things play a key role because at the moment we don't actually do international shipping, and that's something we want to do. So we need to look into that and see, is this going to be adjustments to our product, the ingredients, or do we need to create something else just so we can get it to customers in certain places? So I think it's important because people should know what's in products, and I'm glad that we have regulations like this. But in terms of how we approach it, it's really ongoing conversations with the experts in the fragrance houses that we have.
Speaking of that, I'm hearing a lot of trust in your team, in the experts that you surround yourself with. Do you have any tips around sort of who that person is? How do you find people that you trust? How do you find people to work with that you trust?
It's hard. I mean, I feel like having a brand is kind of like being in a relationship. Like, I don't know if this person's gonna screw me over in a week, 2 weeks, 2 years. I have no clue. But you kind of have to like step out on faith and just trust that there's gonna be a mutual understanding that as long as I do my part, you're gonna do yours, especially if you're paying someone. And I think the most important thing is once that trust is like, on the line, or maybe they make a decision that you're like, why did they make that decision? And then also not tell me. Or if you start to see there's some question marks, I think as a leader, as a brand founder, stepping up and being like, how am I gonna handle it now? Now that I understand that they've, questioned that trust, what am I gonna do with it? Am I gonna keep working with them? Maybe because it's cheap and I don't really care about what my customer, they'll find out about that later, whatever. Are you gonna keep going with it because it benefits your bottom line and your pockets, or are you going to say not worth losing the customer's trust and moving forward?
Yeah, actually, that's actually a very good point. And we've had situations with vendors in the past where you trust them, everything sounds great. You go into these meetings, they say all the things that sound good, they tick all the boxes. But one thing I can't stress more about is having a contract in place, like something that outlines, and it doesn't have to be a complicated contract, just something that's binding where it outlines the rules, and if this happens, like outcomes and what happens if these outcomes happen, what the results, can we exit? Do they owe you money if there's any damages? If they're producing your products and there's any problems, like, because we've had situations where like, they don't want to take accountability. So make sure you really, really, have your processes in place. And even another thing that people don't factor in is like, even with professional services, which we all need, whether it's legal, whether it's accounting services, whether it's hourly or retainer, make sure you know how that works, especially hourly ones where you don't want someone billing you and you're thinking, oh yeah, everything's good, and they send you the bill and you're like, wait, you owe them so much money, and they're just doing their part. So make sure you protect yourself and you understand, or we even have thresholds in place that says, okay, if you hit this threshold, let's just say you hit $2,000, you need to tell me before you do more work. So putting things like that in place will really help you and avoid any weird situations.
You both have had so much success in the past. I'm curious, when it comes to FORVR Mood, have you had the moment yet where you're like, we did it, we made it, like this is it, we're here?
There's so many that are like tangible and non-tangible. Like I want to say launching the brand and seeing product move that quickly was like, oh, shit. I was like, whoa. That was big that was huge for us. But I think on a tangible note was we got a plaque one day from Shopify. And mind you, they sent it was like a year later. Yeah. I don't know why they sent it to us a year later. But we had hit our 100,000th Shopify order. Wow. And they sent us this really cute, it looked like a little shopping bag, like a little purse. Cute. And it was like, yeah, congratulations on your 100,000th order. And mind you, that doesn't even count like the Sephora orders too. So and that was a year, they sent us that plaque a year after we hit that milestone. So at this point, I have no clue what we've done. Dennis probably knows, but that was probably a really big one for us, for sure.
That's impressive.
What was yours, babe? Does that cover it?
Yeah, that covers it. And even, like, I think sometimes people may think, oh yeah, success doesn't just come like, and obviously it helps that, Jackie has an amazing community, and that that help us get off the ground fairly quickly than other brands that may not have that. However, you've got to keep putting in the work. You've got to make sure you're providing a great customer service to your customers, putting them first, listening to their questions, concerns, and adapting and evolving as things change. And even for us, like the market changes, like nothing's like, truthfully, candles hasn't been performing really well over the last 2 years. And obviously, thankfully, we've got fine fragrance now, which is doing good, but that's the market and you can't, you can't get complacent.
Jackie and Dennis, we're out of time. I could talk to you both all day. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for being on the panel.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
This is actually our first panel together, so yeah, this feels great. Yeah.
We did it, boo.
Well done.
Thank you for having us.